Can I please have Kat Ciara-McGuire to the stage? Kat is Pat's wife and will be sharing their story.
Scott just said very reluctantly, I wasn't supposed to be the one doing this, and I have a paralyzing fear of public speaking, so please bear with me. Plus, trying to get through this without crying is going to be near impossible, but thank you, Scott and Charger, for organizing this event, and to the Fallen Heroes Fund for all that you do. I'm listening to everybody's stories here today, and how they face the respective challenges in their careers. And Pat Lee certainly had her share of those. It shines a spotlight on just how important it is to bring attention to all the men and women who have blazed the trail for others to follow behind them. As Scott said, I'm Kathleen Ciara-McGuire, Kat to my friends, and I want to introduce my wife, Pat Ciara. She was my wife, my love for 24 years. I lost her on April 19th of last year, just shy of her 75th birthday. She spent 34 years with the Chicago Fire Department as a paramedic. We met back in 1998 on AOL, when AOL was still dial-up. And there were no dating apps. In fact, apps had not yet been invented. And only the true techies knew how to send a picture. So we were exchanging emails for months before we had pretty much a blind date. But to say the date went well is an understatement. We spent 6 hours at dinner. They had to ask us to leave the restaurant. And the rest is history. At the time, I was working for a hotel management company and was spending 40 weeks a year on the road. So it made dating a little bit difficult. But once we got together, and her passion for medicine and emergency medicine was so infectious that I decided I wanted to change careers. I was an accountant at the time. She sent me back to nursing school. And she used to joke and tell everybody she was doing it selfishly so that someday I would take care of her when she had to be fed mashed bananas. She didn't know how almost true that was. I lost my place, I'm so sorry. She fell into the career of EMS. That was not ever her intended goal. She was dating a woman who happened to be going to nursing school back in 1975 and met some of her friends who said they were going to go take this emergency medicine course. You know what it was? She said, that sounds like fun. So she did it and had a passion for it. It fit her like a hand in glove. And back then, paramedics, I don't know if anybody knows this, but it was a very, very primitive career at the time. It was started by field medics coming back from Vietnam and looking for a way to help and bring that experience into their communities. And so that's how the paramedic field began. When she started working on an ambulance, she had to provide her own blood pressure cuff, stethoscope, intubation equipment. They had no supplies. It was very, very new and primitive. She took the exams for both Chicago Fire Department and the police department, excuse me, but knew it would be a long time before she heard from them. So she started a private ambulance company with one of her friends and a fellow that had taken the EMS course with her. She finally got a call in '78 from the CFD. She sold her share in the ambulance to a friend and joined CFD and never looked back. She wanted the busiest house in the city. Wherever it was, she was there. She would go take every shift she could. She absolutely loved working in the field, loved working with the community. After she'd been on the ambulance for about 8 years, she finally got the call from the police department and couldn't decide what she wanted to do, but she had just been promoted to field chief, so she's like, I'm not gonna start over again. But honestly, her passion, she really wanted to be a police officer. So she started in 1978 on the CFD. 8 months later, she was promoted to field chief. She worked every ambulance house in the city for 12 years. In '94, she was promoted again to the chief of EMS training, making her the highest ranking out member of a municipal fire department at that time. In 2000, she was promoted again to deputy chief paramedic in charge of the north side of the city. She was responsible for over 500 paramedics. EMS certainly had come a long way from where she started. In 2002, she got her master's degree from Loyola University in Industrial Relations. In 2004, she had her final promotion to District Chief Director of the CFD Personnel. It was a very stressful position, and she was missing and yearning to be back in the field. Also, but alas, it was not to be true. In 2005, she suffered from a heart attack and had stents surgically placed. She very much wanted to return to work, but continued having uncontrollable chest pains and had to go out on disability. That move was very difficult for her. The fire department was a huge part of her identity. She was very, very proud of her career, and it would take me hours, if not days, to highlight all of the heroic acts and accomplishments she achieved in her career. But the thing that brought her the most joy was the people she mentored. She had a policy of hand out and hand up. And with each promotion, she was able to bring along and bring in as many LGBTQ members and as many women as she could. There is now an LGBTQ woman who she mentored, who now outranks her as a deputy fire commissioner. Pat's incredibly proud of her, was. In 2022, Pat was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. She faced the diagnosis and the subsequent treatment with the same determination and grit as she faced everything else in her life. Following many setbacks, including a series of strokes, development of diabetic ulcers, and finally systemic organ failure, I knew that she'd finally met a challenge she would not be able to conquer. Pat's enthusiasm, never mind. I loved being a nurse, and because she put me through nursing school, I fortuitously ended up specializing in home health and hospice, for which I'll forever be grateful that I was educated and equipped to take care of her and to selfishly keep her with me for as long as humanly possible. She was a trailblazer, a fierce art advocate, and larger than life. Her absence has left a huge hole in the lives of all of us that knew her and our 2 fur babies, Katie and Drake. She believed there were no strangers in the world, only friends she hadn't met yet. And I'll close with a quote from Pat on her advice to those following in her footsteps. Educate yourself as much as you can, never give up on your goals, never accept defeat, and never let them see you sweat. Thank you.